good evening, and welcome to this episode of Level Up Prodcast with Malthi. Hi, I'm a product leadership coach and a product lead executive. With me today, I have Karthi. Well, for those who know Karthi, needs no introduction. But anyway, to begin with, she's a senior design director at Salesforce. And I'm really glad to have you here today, Karthi.
Thank you, Malthi. Such a pleasure to be here and having this conversation with you.
Thank you. So, why don't we start with a little introduction? Karthik, just share with us the lovely journey you have had in the product world and in the design world, and talk a lot more that you have had your journey from being into the corporate job, then being an entrepreneur, then again going back to the corporate world. So, would love to hear a lot more about you.
Sure thing. I'll try and bring 2 decades in 2 minutes. I'll do my best. I'm an engineer, and that's my basic degree, and I am grateful that I did engineering. It helps me with analytical thinking, problem solving, all of those good stuff. So I was a full-fledged programmer, a hardcore C++ programmer. And then I wondered, like, okay, when you are in the middle and kind of coding different logics, like, where does it get even stored? So I went and dabbled a little bit with databases. So I was a database administrator for about a year and a half. So we got the front end, that's going on where whatever we are doing in the middle and the back is getting shown here. So I wanted to go and check out those aspects as well. So that's how I became a front end developer, which is HTML, CSS, DHTML. Well, DHTML those days. Today we have JavaScript and a lot more. And one question kept on bugging me, like, who makes decisions on what comes on the front end? And that's what took me to human computer interaction. I think after I found it, like, totally, I was falling in love with it. I think I'm still fallen. I haven't risen from there. And then I became a designer. And from there, I wanted to understand, like, how do we make decisions? Like, how do we connect design and business? So that's how I became a strategic designer. And then came product management, and they came in between and said, we are the voice of the customer. So I wanted to, like, what do you guys do? So I went ahead and studied a little bit of product leadership, and that's what my MBA was in. And then understood a little bit more about product management, and I realized that bringing all of this together, that's what is making products all about. And also dabbled a little bit on community building. I have my own share of investments, failures in that, even little successes in that. And then I realized that you can't do all of this while you are in an agency, especially leadership. You can't do it in an agency. I started with corporates, and then I said, okay, I'm done with it. And I came to the entrepreneurial world, and I realized that you can't do real product building in depth by sitting in an entrepreneurial world. At max, I'll be a business leader. I'll not be a design leader. So because I couldn't be a design leader, I said, okay, let's go back to where the action happens. So that's what brought me back into the corporate world. Now designing for the next billion or million, or making the sales world better, whatever it is, throw me all the problems. I'm ready. So that's pretty much has been my journey. So whenever we speak, product making, we talk about desirability, viability, and feasibility. I think I have a degree in desirability, viability, and feasibility. Kind of brings all of them together to the center of product experiences. And I think that's pretty much my journey so far.
Yeah, thanks. I think you really managed to put it in a very beautifully, few minutes words. But I know there is so much more, Karthi, to what you kind of attribute your time to your leadership to, and that is one area that and that's exactly what I was telling you in the beginning. That when I spoke, to myself that okay, when we are going to bring Karthi onto this forum, what is that we want to touch upon? And I think product design was like by default, but I think I wanted to go beyond the obvious, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
you have been as you said, you have been a community champion for so many years now, right? And what you call as the Makers Guild. And you have kind of pretty much touched upon all aspects of building a product, whether it is you have a lot of empathy on the engineering side of things. Of course, you are kind of very well educated, and you've been in those how would I say, positions where you have worked very, very deeply with product managers, right? And of course, you kind of lead the design side of things, right? Now, I think the aspect that I wanted to touch, and which would be very, very useful for a lot of creators, product builders, and entrepreneurs, is understanding a mix of what goes into a product builder's life, right? So I
Mm.
think one of the aspects which I know you kind of write beautifully, whether it is on your LinkedIn post or whether those articles or even when in a session that you're taking, right? So I think one of the key aspect which I always tell my team is that writing is a very, very key skill
Mm.
for any product builder, whether you're
Yeah.
coming from any of those dimensions, because writing gives a lot of clarity in
Mm.
your own mind. And as a product manager, as you said, you are literally in the bit in between a lot of other stakeholders, right? So I would like you to talk a little bit about your own writing journey. What
Mm.
gives you that kick for writing, and how do you think this could be a very, very powerful tool for the product builders?
Ah, okay. Do you want a crisp answer or a complete answer?
I would say let's do a complete answer.
Complete answer. Okay, great. Because I need to touch upon multiple things and bring them together.
Sure. Sure.
I want to take it one step forward where you stopped talking about writing, Malti. I think writing is a meta skill. I studied cognitive psychology in my master's, and that
Hmm.
subject just opened my mind. Like, cognitive science is all about understanding how a human being processes information. So how does our nervous system really process the whole damn thing? Um, and while we are processing information, that's pretty much where cognition and recognition, which is what we call as recognition, comes from. So if I put writing in that lens, it is basically if you look at all systems, all engineers talk about systems as input, processing, output. So if we really look at writing, it is both the processing engine as well as an output engine. It's very
Mhm.
interesting. So the input is, we call them as ingestion, right? I mean, it's almost like your digestive system. Your ingestion, your digestion, and your expression, plus your excretion. Of course, there's a lot of wastage in whatever we do. So similarly, if you just take the same analogy, writing is exactly that. You're ingesting through reading, listening, whatever, right? You're watching a video, you're listening to a podcast, whatever. All of this is ingestion, and your brain kind of connects all the dots, and that's the digestion. And when
Mhm.
you're using writing, you actually digest better. It's very interesting because it's a cute concept which I couldn't understand for a long time. Your brain cannot think a thought. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
you
Okay. That took me a minute, like not your, like a few
yeah.
seconds. Yeah.
So
Yes, that's right.
our brain cannot think a thought. So what it means is, if you are thinking, it cannot connect the dots. So the only way your brain can make sense of it is through externalization, which means it has to come via your sensory body. So either you have to feed it through your eyes or through your ears or through touch, sense, all the five different senses. The best way to externalize is to actually write, because the words are on the paper and you will see it. It's on the keyboard, you type it and you can actually see it. And when you're externalizing, your brain is like, oh, okay, now I understand. So the more you write, the more externalization happens, the more your brain is able to connect the dots. And once you have connected the dots, there is a certain set of clarity that kind of emerges. And it's very interesting that clarity is not clear. you, you need to keep
Think a thought
going,
and
think a thought, and clarity is not
it's
clear.
not clear.
And it took me quite a bit of time to really understand these things. So clarity is evolving, and once a clarity is there, then your writing, the piece that you have written, can be published. So so writing itself, I will divide into three parts. One is the writing, the other is the editing, and the third one is the publishing. So these are three different acts which are actually happening in the brain. The first part is to gain clarity. The second part is where you're sculpting, crystallizing, and bringing it to a good form and shape. And the third part is where you are getting it ready for the consumption for the other person. So you're digesting and you're expressing,
Wow.
right?
Right.
It's literally like what happens in our stomach with our food and what happens in our body as energy. Two different things, right? That's what is writing. So to me, it's not just a skill for product managers and product designers. I think if anybody has a brain, they should use writing. It is almost like having food, just that you're having food for your brain.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, so it's supremely important, and you cannot go without food for some days, right? To me, that's what it is not to write. It's almost like I am constipating in my head. If that makes sense, right? So I need to dump it somewhere.
Right.
And probably that happens to be my notes in LinkedIn. It's funny when I say that, but that's what it is, right?
Right.
So in
Right.
that sense, absolutely, writing is a core skill. I mean, not even a core skill; it's a meta skill. And if you're a product designer, if you're a product manager, I will categorize all of us as knowledge workers. And knowledge workers are working with these thoughts all the time. So
Right.
because you cannot think a thought, you externalize it in some form. And writing seems to be a better way to do it because it's an easier way. Drawing is harder because for you to translate something into a visual thought is very hard. A written
Right.
thought is easier. So to me, that's the easiest way one can externalize. And yeah, that's why I think, that's where I get my inspiration to. It's like getting an inspiration to eat. Arey, you should eat it.
Yeah. No, that was actually very profound, Karthi, the way you kind of put it, and I cannot agree more. I mean, it's like the more your brain works, the more you think, the more you're able to give a structure to it, and the more you're able to put it in a form which can
Yep.
be consumed by others. And so, a contrarian question over there, right?
Sure.
Especially these days when we look around. In the last 3 4 years, this whole Chat GPT thing has taken us by storm,
Mm.
right?
Oh
And
yeah.
everybody else is looking at, okay, how do I leverage this as a productivity hack, right?
Awesome. Yes.
so
Yes.
so what are your views on that? Because a lot of writing, right? I mean, as a product manager, as you said, uh, many of us are spending a lot of time in kind of giving shape to the ideas, the
Mm-hmm.
thoughts that we have that goes into building or designing that product.
Mm.
Yeah, right, even if it is thinking visually. So, what is your take on how Chat GPT is either equipping us or it is taking
Oh,
away some skill from us?
okay. Again, let me go back to the meta principles.
Uh-huh.
We we are ruling the world, literally,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
We are
Hmm.
not the strongest. We are not the fastest. We don't even reproduce, yeah, that much.
Right.
Look at
Right.
rabbits are better than us, honestly. But
Right.
still, we rule the world. Why? And this took me into the rabbit hole of finding like why do we win every time? It's
Hmm.
because of three things. One, we have an ability to make tools. We have language, no other animal
Hmm.
has it, and we
Hmm.
have an ability to cooperate. We
Hmm.
can work with strangers like, you and I, we were not born in the same family. Probably we know each other in through our professional circles. And today we are talking. And tomorrow, if there is something for me, you will come. This cooperation, no other animal has, only we have. So
Hmm.
these three things make us into a very powerful, adaptable creature. Our
Hmm.
adaptability is amazing.
Hmm.
So somebody would have told in Stone Age that, oh my God, this tool has come and you're doomed. And then calculator came and you're doomed. A washing machine came and you're doomed. And every time somebody says when you're making a tool, you're doomed. In my opinion, as a behavioral scientist, I feel whenever we are making a powerful tool, we are only going to get better. We beat evolution. We have already beaten evolution so many times, and this time we are going to beat it faster. For the first time, for the first time, a tool is as smart as AI, right? So, as a I sound like a prick right now when I say this, but as a master, you need an amazing slave. um, we are control freaks as human beings. So
Right.
when you hold that master seat, you want a smarter slave, and now we have access to it. To me, I'm overjoyed that I have an amazing friend and an intern with whom I can collaborate all the time. I used to be solaborating, right? I mean, solo collaboration, me and me, myself, Karthi. No. Now, if I don't have an idea, I can start broad and I can explore a conversation. Now, if I want to, I'm kind of okay. I have only half an hour. I have to finish something. Then I can chisel the conversation. I can pinpoint a conversation. I can do multiple things with ChatGPT, and
Right.
I couldn't find a human intern like that. Honestly, I can say, okay, now improve my writing. Now make the tone professionally. Now make the tone funny, and it doesn't wink its eye. It's like just working all the time. I
Right.
have to cajole my interns and say, "How are you? How did you sleep well?" All of those things. I don't have to do anything with ChatGPT. I just give instructions and it gives me back. So as an intern, I'm loving it. And if it can take over some of the things that I do, if I can fire a part of me and kind of delegate it to ChatGPT, I want to, because I can go and do much more. So a lot of people were saying that, oh my God, we are doomed, and now ChatGPT will be able to write everything. And my thing is, let it write. We will go do other things. That what an AI cannot do, we will go and do it. That's what keeps us human beings. That's why we are who we are. So in that sense, I love ChatGPT, and I love all the wrappers and the plugins that are available. And I use them left, right, and center. And it still is not able to beat me, Malti. So I think I'm still winning this game.
Yeah. No, no, very, very, very well put together. And you're right. I mean, I think in a very true sense, it's like the co-pilot for the PMs, right? So yeah, I
Exactly.
mean,
It's a
and I,
right word. It's a co-pilot. That's what
yes,
it is, right? It is
right,
helping me to write better, and
right.
I can sleep and it can take over.
Exactly. No, yeah. I
Awesome.
mean, I love the example that you said, like being a solopreneur. So I'm like all the time collaborating with myself, but now I have somebody, especially in
To talk
topic
to.
where, yeah, in a topic which is kind of fairly new to me, I now have a starting point. Okay, let me at least start exploring. And then, as you said, I can chisel it down. I can go broad. I can go narrow in the way
Yes.
I kind of direct it. So yeah, so much.
I can tell Chat GPT that don't I want this answer again,
Yes,
again, again, and
I'm
without getting tired, it's giving me, right. So it's amazing
absolutely,
in
absolutely,
that sense.
absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. I think those are some really wonderful nuggets, Karthi. Okay, I'm going to just switch on the gears a little bit now. See, as a PM, one of the very important aspect is that you are talking to so many different people, right? That means you are in so many x number of meetings than probably
Yep.
anybody else is, right? You are constantly the note taker in that meeting. Usually I'm still a very old school. I still go with my the notebook, go with this. And
That's
things.
my last 3 weeks. Yeah.
Wow. Right? So I think one of the things that I have seen a lot of mentees who come to me or my PMs themselves from my team, they complain about is how do I manage my team better? How do
Mm-hmm.
I, kind of protect myself with so much of context switching that happens like
Mm.
with every meeting. So I know that you just shared your pile of notes, but what would be if as a leader, when your team member comes to you or as a mentor, what are some of those productivity hacks which you kind of guide them that says that how they can be on top of their uh, time management aspects? What
Mm.
would be some of those productivity
Yeah.
hacks?
So I used to be very interested in productivity because I studied human performance, and human performance and automation was one of the specialized subjects that we studied as human factors engineers for a long time. So, human performance meant a lot, like the number of mistakes, the slips and errors that a human being makes. If you are making in military, it's very expensive. If you're making in an aircraft, it's a lot more expensive. So my job is about studying productivity and human performance. So I have lived and brewed myself in this area. One thing that I learned, which the world of I don't know what to call it. Maybe it's just an observation. I realized that this happened to me while I was actually thirsty on a the bank of Ganges in Rishikesh. And the whole river is flowing, and my water bottle is empty, and I'm struggling to find water. And that's the most nuttiest thing that a person can go through. And then somehow, we all got our water bottles. And I'm like, this is exactly what happens in life as well. So information keeps flowing. There are a number of things that keeps coming to you, the number of emails, the number of DMs, but what you should care about is just this one liter water bottle. That's it. And that changed my perspective around productivity completely. Till then, I was an inbox zero person. I'm like,
Mhm.
I want every single night inbox should be like zero. And now I don't care. I don't care. I care about that little water bottle that I'm carrying with me and what I call as like, these are the projects, these are my priorities. And if anything comes in this, I'll bother. And everything else, I will leave it as a river. So, okay, how do you apply this concept? And I was in Microsoft at that time and we were using Outlook. So a lot of times we go and, put in rules and create folders and you say that, okay, on this rule, process this and send to this folder, right? And there is a small feature called a search folders. I don't know if you have used it. And I'm like, check the rules. How many rules I'm going to make? Because every time the context changes, the rules changes. Whom I should kind of listen to, the number of people are changing. So what happens to the previous rules? It's like very. So I created a simple search folder, and I
Okay.
named the search folder as my boss and
You
my
gave the name
team.
as you
I
gave the
gave the
name of
name
your
as
boss?
my boss. Yes.
Okay,
No,
okay.
no, I called it as my boss, my
Okay,
team,
got it.
my
Huh.
partners and stakeholders,
Uh-huh.
my leadership. Just
Okay.
4 folders.
Okay.
Okay. And everything else. That was the fifth folder. Okay.
Got it.
So
Okay.
now anything that came from my boss, I was able to immediately attend to because the search folder went and searched. My boss doesn't change very often, isn't it?
Correct.
And even if they changed, all I need to go and delete one email and put another email. That's it. Right? And this made my life so much simpler and easier. And I can't tell you like what a beautiful productivity hack that is. So you are absolutely available, responsive, and you are listening to the most important conversations. So like this, when you start looking at things differently, you are able to understand the world around you differently. So my first hack, or rather a principle, it's not even a hack, it's a principle to really think about productivity is to look at a big picture and not at the smallest picture, because nobody cares about the to-dos. Nobody cares about the activities and the efforts that you go through. Everybody
Hmm.
cares about what outcomes you are producing, right?
Completely.
So what outcomes should be produced in the long term? And that's the focus. And then do all your short term activities towards that focus. So every week I do a simple review of, okay, what are the ongoing projects? And let me define a project for you, because I'm not a task list person. I'm not a to do person. In fact, I don't even care about to dos. I call it as a project, and the project, typically when we call a project, it has a start date, it has an end date, it has the three O's: objective, output, and outcome, right?
Okay.
And let us say this podcast, so Malthi's podcast is a project. Let's say there's one season and it is 10 episodes. And this project is like, okay, I'm going to do 10 episodes in 10 months. For example, if you do a monthly once cadence. So the objective is to find your guest and record the podcast, which is about product leadership and the life around product leaders. That's the objective. The output is these recordings. The outcome is this podcast really helping our fraternity? The feedback that comes out of it, and the views and all of those metrics, which
Yeah.
tells you the signals that tells you the start date and end date is 10 months, we are done. So
Right.
till that is done, this project is on.
Right.
So all I do is, here are some work breakdown items that I have to do for this particular project. And every week I just ask, okay, Malthi's podcast, what happened? Where are we? Are there any challenges or blockers or risks? And are we green, yellow, or red? And that's it. So like this, if you actually look at it, the number of projects you have would be only 10 or 12 at a time.
Correct.
It's easier to manage them rather than the to-do list, which has thousands.
Correct.
And if somebody wants to get something out of me, they will make sure that they get it out of me. I trust them, right? And this is how, this is one another system which I use to really manage the time. And time itself is an interesting factor. I think there is nothing called as time management. There is something called as time leverage, and that's it, right?
Okay.
You either use it or lose it.
Okay.
Treat time like a conveyor belt. Okay? You either put the suitcase on it and let it go, or you don't. And this half an hour is either you use it or you lose it. So I don't manage my time. I know that it is a ticking clock and it keeps moving. Now, I only ask, are you going to use it or are you going to lose it? That choice is mine. And based on that choice, I will make a decision, right? So a block of time, again, you can bring it, the project concept, bring it all the way down to the 3 O's. Even if it is half an hour, you can say, the objective of this half an hour is to speak to Malthi with all my presence. And the output is to make sure that this recording is done really well. The outcome is, I don't know, maybe somebody will learn something out of it. Fingers crossed, right? And that's it. So the start is minute 1 and the end is minute 30. That's it. So that way you are leveraging everything that you have within that time. And your leverage could be capital, leverage could be media, leverage could be your past experiences and knowledge. You're just you're just pulling everything together and you're making the best use of this piece. So I think the concept of time management itself, it's not logically correct. That's my view. And whenever my team comes and asks me and get overwhelmed, I first thing I do is like I go all the way and make sure that their priorities are cleared for at least 100 days. I say for next 100 days, this is all you're going to do. In this 12 weeks, these are the things we are going to measure. These are the metrics we will look at. These are the projects that we will be focusing on. And these are the ways in which these projects can be successful. Now just go do it.
Right.
Don't get overwhelmed by the number of things. For everything else, use my name and say no.
Yeah.
You got my air cover. So and it's so powerful. And probably engineering will come and say, your team member just said no. I'm like, but you didn't have it in the Kanban board. This is a scope creep. You need to talk to me. And they are like, oh, yeah, this is a new item. We progressively discovered it. Yeah, then let's have a conversation. Sit down, I'll give you a coffee and let's talk.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very, very, very interesting perspective. Yeah, that time leverage. I think that's a new term that I also learned today. But I think being mindful, being present, and you're giving your 200% for the task at hand. I think clearly helps you to elevate the outcomes and the outputs that you're targeting for, right? So
Yeah, I don't know if this sounds spiritual or whatever, but or probably mathematical. I am very logical person. Um, Let us say that you and I have long lives, Malti, 100 years, yeah. And if I convert that into number of days, that is 36,500 days only. Mm? In that,
Mhm.
if I just slept 8 hours every day, that's 12,500 days gone. Okay. And
Right.
let us say you are working between age 21 and say till 65, 70 because you're passionate about what you're doing. That's about 4,000 days only. That's it. Okay. And the rest of it is what you call as life. In one sense, every hour is life.
Exactly.
Time is a slice of life. So when you start asking yourself, do you want to give your life to this person? And then you put a lot more value in answering that question.
Correct.
And that is where my first answer is always no. Like, I, I'm not available. And I want to think through it. And if only when a deep yes comes to me, I say yes. Otherwise, it's a no. Like, why do you want to waste your life? Why do you want to spend your life on things that are insignificant? So this idea, uh, time is a slice of life, just changes my way in how I prioritize things.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting that there is a beautiful study done by Harvard. This is a 75-year long study on happiness. They went to all the old people and asked, like, what are your regrets and what kept you happy? Nobody said to do list. Nobody, zero.
Correct.
Nobody said I didn't finish this project. Nobody said that, oh my God, I didn't, tuck in that Figma file. No. Everybody said I would have spent a little more time with my loved one, with my son, with my daughter, with my wife. I wish I went and said hello to my friends. I wish I spoke a little bit more to my neighbors. So it's all about human connect. And
Right.
and if you look at it from a productivity perspective, that's the most unproductive thing you can do, is the most inefficient thing. Have you fallen in love and noticed that, oh my God, I was just talking to this guy for 3 hours and it's just gone? This is the most unproductive time. But that's what we want. That's
Exactly.
what we regret not doing.
Hmm.
So I stopped putting pressure on me saying, okay, this is productive, this is efficient, this is effective. No, 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 no. Whatever feels right, right? And that's how I go and leverage that time. And finally, I use a Likert scale. I call it as a Tripti index. It's a satiety index, which says
Okay.
that did I did I spend that piece of life really, really well?
Right.
What was it on 5 on 5, 4 on 5, 4.5 on 5, 4.8 on 5? That coffee spilled, whatever. And so either you are Tripti or Ati Tripti or Atripti. That's it.
Hmm. On the
And
scale.
it kind of, when you look at life like this, you're more joyful, you're more significant, you're more prioritized. You don't give a damn. You're not stressed at all because you will know that you are going to miss out. Arey, why fear? When more is inevitable, why foe then?
No, I think that is very philosophical, but at the time, it's kind of very, very true, right? I mean, we all aim to put things which we truly enjoy, right? And that is why
Exactly.
I say that the best work done is where you are passionate about it. You are being giving your 100% because you're
100%.
enjoy doing it. You are enjoying doing
Exactly.
it, right? So I think very, 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 very true. And I think I would definitely say, doing these podcast episodes is something which gives very high on my Tripti index.
I can totally relate with you. I have done at least 100 episodes and I know what pleasure it brings. I mean, I was
Yes.
definitely looking forward to our conversation more than the podcast. I can speak to Malti. So without about things that I have never spoken to you on other days. So it's amazing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, no. Thank you so much, Karthi. That's like amazing. And that actually takes me to the next question, right? I mean, as creators, I mean, even if we are sleeping, even when we are not consciously thinking, our mind is working, right? I mean, there is
Yes.
always
We
that
don't
high.
switch off.
We don't switch off, right? And actually, sometimes I do have that problem, when it's like late in the evening and I'm telling myself, okay, we need to calm down and just sleep.
Yeah,
But anyway, going on to the other side of things is that we all are, brimming with ideas. And I think one of the thoughts that I would love to pick your brain is that what is the quickest way, right, when you're thinking about these ideas, because we always try to put in this gap of,
mm,
as you said, desirability, feasibility, viability aspect of it, right? So there are
yeah,
these aspects of business,
yeah,
aspect of customers, and what is the talent pool, what are the resources that you have,
totally, totally.
right? But you've been on both sides, you've been on the one side as an entrepreneur where you have
Mm,
only so much of resources, and you've been on this side where you have resources, but then you make sure that you have to go right to the business and to the customers, right?
right,
So
absolutely.
what drives you? How do you make those decisions? Any thoughts on that? What's your process of going through that?
Decision making. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So again, I want to go little meta in answering that because um, the answer needs to be complete, right? Uh, as a person, I keep asking, let's start from death. And I think that's a good place to start.
Mm-hmm.
So every night I have this one little question that I ask myself that, okay, Karthi, if you don't wake up tomorrow morning, right? Uh, is this been a good life? This, whatever you did today, how do you feel? And when I say good, 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 then it is going great, right? When it is, mm, is it, is it noisy for you? I got a
No,
phone call. Okay.
I think let's start now.
Okay. Let's start again. So, death is a good place to start for answering these questions, uh, because that's when your life kind of ends, and that's the expiry date, so to speak, right? So I ask myself, what if tomorrow is the day, right? And today, how do you rate yourself? And I'm asking myself, are you dying well? Is it yes or a no? And if you're dying well every single day as yes, 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 then you're doing the right things. And over a period of time, if you get no, 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 then that is something that I use as a compass to go and change whatever is creating that no. Um, so that's the first decision making that I keep doing day in and day out, especially on a daily basis. It's a great reminder that you are mortal, and mortality is the best agency accelerator that I have seen. Um, so it kind of gives you an urgency that, oops, you might not be there. And because of that, you are like, okay, let me go and do more significant things. So the way I make decisions is I ask, are you producing something significant out of this, whatever effort that you're doing? If it is not a significant work, which means it's not repeatable, it's not scalable, it's not creating an impact, then it's not worth doing it. So that's my way of making a decision whether to pick it or not pick it.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing applies to everything that you do in a day, whether it is work or life. I don't believe in this work-life balance. It's just a BS concept. For me, there is life and work happens in between, and there's a life and everything happens in between. Who split it? Who gave you a separate pie? There is nothing like that, right? So everything happens in one pie, and now it is up to you to manage it. So there's nothing called as a balance here, right? You need to in that sense, when you are thinking about life, when you're thinking about work, you are thinking on the scale of significance. If it is on high significance, I do it. If it is of low significance, I don't do it. So that's how I take decisions even at work. It's not because somebody said so. No. If I am not feeling right about what I am doing, I generally don't do it. And if someone comes and says, I know you don't feel right, but we need to do it. I would say, would you please do it for me? Because I can't do this. So I'm sometimes vulnerable. They say that that's also courageous to go and say that this is not making sense to me and I'm
Hmm.
not going to do this. Uh,
Hmm.
if there is something that makes super sense to me, but we are not doing it, I'll go and say, I think we should do this work. I know we did not think about it, project plan it, we don't have resources. You know what? I'll burn my midnight oil and get it done. So it's the spectrum of significance helps me to make decisions really well. For example, when you are a professional and you are having a full-time job, spending your time on your community, writing, taking care of, your family, it's a lot. But the drive comes from this is significant. I keep looking at my mother-in-law, and like, how many more days I have with them, how many more weeks I have with them, how many more months I have with them, how many times I will be able to, interact with them. I don't want to regret that I didn't do it. So that's, that drives you to go and spend that damn time.
Hmm.
And that's one of the reasons why I don't spend time on on roads, because it's such a waste of time. I go in an outer ring road, zoop, and I'm staying in Hyderabad, so I can say all of these things. I don't know what I will do if I come to Bangalore, and that's where your decision making also is, right? You're not making decisions that you would not be happy every single day. So it's a daily thing, Malti. And it's about dying well. It's about dying with high tripti. It's about dying with high significance. And whatever makes sense for that, do it. If it
Right.
doesn't, if it is a, no. If it is like super, let's do it, then we do it. Otherwise, just give back. Like, don't even bother thinking about it.
Got
So,
it. Yeah, no, I think giving and kind of being very thoughtful about it as to what is the significance and why should you spend time on it. It kind of makes a
yeah,
complete sense of that, right? So maybe a last question,
mm,
Karthi, is
sure.
that in the last few years that I have known you, you are a in and out completely community person, right? And I think you already mentioned that something that is of significance that you really value, right? And what is your biggest driver for you kind of drive a lot of writing community, reading community. I don't know, makers guild, the that is
Yeah.
another thing, right? So what is your drive, and is that also like the project that you, for example, spoke about, where there is an output, there is an outcome which you are kind of striving for? What drives you into
Mm,
driving these communities?
right. So as a product builder, the first thing that comes to me is like we are cribbers. Oh my God, we crib a lot. We are like, this doesn't work, that doesn't work, this sucks, the experience is not great. And we crib and crib and crib. And I realized that whenever I crib, my Tripti index goes down and my dying well usually is like not so good. So over a period of time, I found out in the last 4 5 years, I found out that the best way to crib is to build. So anything that makes me crib a lot, I go and build it because I can't live with it. Like I can't digest it, right? So
Hmm.
one thing which I couldn't live with is I didn't have a community to go to really become a better person. I didn't have a community where I can just go and be like, it's like home. You belong there. You're just there yourself. And as a holistic person, not one part of me, just the designer alone will not walk into that door. So I missed a community like that. And in fact, even our women product leaders community is also, kind of stemming from all of these things, right?
Right.
So I, I realized that we don't have a community like that, and I want a community like that. And the gap between the two is just somebody just doing it. So that's how Makers Guild started. It's my need, should I say, my greed. For me, I'm like, I want something like this, where I want to connect with like-minded people. I want to belong. I want to get better. So belonging and betterment became a very big drive for me. And that's what drives Makers Guild. And all these meta skills, right? Nobody teaches you how to eat, right? Nobody talks about digestion process. So similarly, nobody talks about writing. Nobody
Hmm.
talks about reading. Nobody talks
Hmm.
about learning. Nobody talks about speaking, articulating. So these
Correct.
are all skills, the meta skills that are needed, because people usually come and say, I want the job. And as a engineer, you know that there is input, there's processing, there's output. It's like I want a job is like output. You're saying I want a job. I want to lose weight. Okay, that's an output. So all behaviors are output, and behaviors don't come if you don't act. So how about a community for action?
Hmm.
The link throwing, gyan giving is can happen anywhere. But I wanted an accountable, group which can say that, okay, I did little, but I did it every single day.
Yeah.
And there's this beautiful mathematical equation which says that um, the if you become 1% better, you become 37% better in a year, right? So it's about just getting 1%, 1.01 to the power of 365. That's it. And
Correct.
that, if it is done as a community, it's far easier. If it is done as a person, it is far harder. Again, coming to cognitive science, the cognition that we all have is single. But when anthropologically speaking, when a society comes together, when a community comes together, the cognition is distributed cognition. They
Hmm.
change the mathematics. 1 plus 1 is 11. It's not two, not anymore, right?
Correct.
And
Correct.
that's that power I think we have in the community. And um, I also know that only 2% of the community gets better, acts on things because it's a lot of energy, right? So
Yes.
even if 2% of our entire community gets better, we are good.
Yeah.
Uh, I think it's a
And
worthy pursuit for this life.
fantastic, fantastic. I mean, I think in the last, whatever, 45 minutes that we've been talking, Karthi, I think this whole human psychology and behavioral aspect of things, it has been very, very insightful. I mean, for everything, whether it is reading, writing, managing your time, the way you look at things, what perspectives that you've built in, I think it's beautiful. And thank you. Just going beyond the obvious, I think that is fantastic. And now I have the signature question for you.
Ooh, okay.
Okay. How do you think? I mean, in the last, I would say, the whole digital aspect of things is like hardly 25 years old, right? And especially
Hmm.
product designers, product builders are probably the newest citizen in this world, right? Probably
Yes,
just more evolved in the last 10 years. So,
right.
what I want to ask you is that how do you think the next 10 years for a product professional is going to look like?
I think it's a very significant moment of our history as well. So far, my subject is called as man-machine interaction. It's basically human making the tool. That's what it is. That's why it's called as human-computer interaction, right?
Hmm.
For the first time, if you really look at how we have evolved in the last 150, 200 years, so the man was significant. He used other men to get things done, right? So
Right.
the man used another man as a machine. And then
Right.
he found some tools and he said, okay, I am human and you are, so this is big and this is small. And this small machine helped me. Probably a stone spear helped him to go and hunt that animal, the man and the machine. Now he said, okay, I can do better. And he started creating some electric automatic machines. So it's like the man and machine, the load balancing of how many things we do is kind of equal. And
Right.
and then suddenly it is becoming where the man is smaller and the machine is larger.
Growing.
And this is very, very pivotal in our history. For the
Right.
first time, our machine is larger than the man.
Right.
It's
Right.
smarter than the man. They can
Right.
connect a lot more dots than a man. they can read probably, you know, petabytes of data and just feed it to you in like 30 seconds. And
Right.
this is something that's beyond our capacity. So, what I see in the next 10 years is going to be like the machine becoming smarter and smarter. Well, I also worry about a few things because of the resources and the population and those kind of aspects. I don't want to end the podcast with the doom, but I definitely want to say that the machine is going to become more powerful in that sense, because it's going to be a better slave than I hope we are the masters that we are, so that we can make use of the tools that we have created. We make the tools and then the tools make us. So that's exactly what is happening. And now this time, when it makes us, it's going to be a whole new world. So in the next 10 years, we are going to see market changes in how we perform our day-to-day activities and what we create. Now we were predictive, we were analytical, predictive, generative, and now autonomous. So
Mm.
I might be having, I'm managing, say, 4 human designers. I will be managing maybe 40, AI designers.
Right.
Very, very different world.
Yes.
And I think they'll be easy to manage.
Yeah, that I think time will tell what, and especially what we end up creating along with these machines, right?
Oh yeah,
So,
oh yeah.
yes,
No,
yes,
so we will go through. See, so human beings have a potential to become awesome. Our max potential is phenomenal, right?
right,
But our default nature, we are pleasure-loving, pain-avoiding, energy-efficient creatures. This is our default state. If we push our default state, we will become that amazing max potential. Now, how many of us can push and become that max potential? That's a question,
right,
because it's so hard to change who you are by default and
correct.
moving beyond default. So whoever stays as default will suffer. Whoever moves beyond default is going to totally enjoy it. I'll
Yeah,
put it that way.
I think you killed it. You killed it. Yeah, thank you so much, Karthi. This was so much pleasure talking to you, and just going very, very several layers deeper in terms of the connect, in terms of the the way to look at things in a very, very different light. This was very, very significant for me myself,
Ah,
and I'm sure for the audience as well. So I really want to thank you for taking the time out over a
thank you.
weekend and sharing your thoughts with my audience. So thank
Pleasure,
you
pleasure,
again.
pleasure to be here. I hope it answered some questions and makes the audience think a little differently from the world or the lens of a cognitive science, behavioral science, and a neuroscience lens, because that's what we are made of. That's what is human mind all about. And if we master the mind, the rest is manageable.
Yeah, and all this is so very this all this is so very crucial because eventually we are making for the products for other humans,
Yeah,
right?
I
So
keep telling this. This is my opening slide in, especially for understanding human sessions. And I say, you are a human. Your boss is a human. Your spouse is a human. Your customer is a human. Your user is a human. And like you date humans, you hate humans, you you live and work with humans, for humans, of humans. Do you think understanding human beings is important?
right,
And I just pause for a second, and the whole class goes like, yes.
yes,
And
no, it's paramount and very, very core to everything and anything we do.
right, absolutely, absolutely. So if we can understand who we are, I think we will be able to do better. I hope
Yes,
this helps.
yes, definitely. Thank you
Thank
again,
you.
Karthi.
Pleasure. Ta-ta.